How's it going, hodlers? Welcome back to Last Week in Crypto. This is the show where we cover exactly what happened over the last week in crypto. The name is obvious. Go ahead and like, subscribe to the channel for more crypto news and content. Let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost is the U.S. regulators are looking to meet and discuss stablecoins tomorrow and work out essentially what is going to happen with stablecoins. I think Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell had something interesting to say. And of course, you guys all know how I feel about Jerome Powell, money printer go burr. But he mentions that if we're going to do something that looks like a money market fund to banking account deposits, we really ought to have appropriate regulations in place, which I actually agree. You know, we have the Tether FUD and everything else happening with the cryptocurrency and stablecoin scene. So yeah, we kind of do need some regulations here. But that being said, you know, Jerome Powell cannot be trusted in terms of where the global money supply is going. But ultimately, I think, you know, regulators sitting down for a stablecoin is going to be healthy for the market. Having a stablecoin that is backed and regulated by the United States government, or at least oversaw by a government, right? Now, again, I'm not very big into government control, government intervention, not too happy about any of that, especially when it comes to monetary policy. But at the same time, I think a lot of people can admit that there are a lot of rug pulls in the space, and there is a need for a US stablecoin that is appropriately regulated. So I agree with this. Next is, we discussed this already during the week, that Tim Draper is actually still on the soapbox of talking about a 250K Bitcoin. Can this actually happen? Now, I do believe that this could happen. I do believe even in, say, a market dip, and I'm not talking about crypto market, I'm talking about potential stock market, we could actually see a $250,000 Bitcoin. I don't know if it's going to be exactly, you know, in 2022. We've discussed when I think the bull market can re-engage. Most likely it'll re-engage in 2022, but will it end in 2022? So we could even see it. Oh, and he does say, I stand by my prediction of 250K Bitcoin by the end of 2022 or early 2023, which I agree with those numbers. Now, again, 250K is a little lofty for me. I would probably say conservative. I'm more around the 150K mark in terms of what I think Bitcoin can go to this cycle. But of course, I've mentioned even numbers higher than this. I've even mentioned 300K. I don't think it's not possible to see 250K, but I'm lowering my expectations to 150K because I think it's more reasonable for what we're currently looking at. Now, Tim Draper does discuss that Bitcoin represents freedom and trust. And now a big thing about Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is so powerful, is the trust is within the code. It's within the blockchain. How Bitcoin works is eliminating trust essentially from money. I think Michael Saylor says it best, where Bitcoin is digital property. It's virtual property. It's real property. You can own Bitcoin and nobody can really seize Bitcoin unless they can get access to your wallets. So very cool, very interesting. I agree with a lot of what Tim Draper's saying, and I actually use some of Tim Draper's technology, or at least what he's VC funding in terms of the Morpher exchange. Really cool exchange, but I love Tim Draper and he's been in the space for a little bit. So Bitcoin whales are still accumulating, even though we're in the depths of this deep, deep dip, and it could go further. People need to recognize that. We could always go below 30K, and you got to be ready for it. But the smart money is accumulating. And again, I've told you guys all throughout the week, and this is a good reminder here, buying at the 50-week or below the 50-week moving average is a good idea in the short term and in the long term. So definitely take advantage now while you can, because you're not going to get this opportunity potentially for another year or so. And we've discussed exactly where the 50-week moving average has been over the past couple of cycles, but we'll take a look at that again at the end of the video. So make sure you're watching for that to understand exactly how that works in. But we do see that Bitcoin whales are accumulating and are building up into their bags. And that's obvious because they know exactly where Bitcoin's going to go in the long term. And buying at these prices is probably going to be the best thing. Even I have shifted myself from major low cap altcoins to more high cap altcoins and Bitcoin. Continuing on the Bitcoin trend and news, Paraguay politicians are announcing this big day for Bitcoin. Obviously, they're looking at regulating Bitcoin and making it legal tender, just like El Salvador did. So they're working towards passing a bill in their government to try to get Bitcoin as a legal tender for Paraguay. And I've said this before, the more countries, and especially the countries that have economic downturns, if they get into Bitcoin now, you have no idea what's going to happen to these countries in the next 10, 15, 20 years. They could potentially be some of the richest countries ever, especially if they hold a healthy amount of Bitcoin in their coffers. So I'm incredibly excited about this. They're even calling it innovative. They're loving Bitcoin. I know that individual citizens, it's hard for people to get their mind around Bitcoin, especially when they're dealing with money, fiat money all their lives. So that's going to be a learning curve, just like El Salvador. But I do think that this is one big step, and we see multiple countries moving into this. And I think that's just going to be bullish in the future. And now we're actually seeing real adoption from countries, not just companies holding it in their coffers like Tesla. We're talking about actual countries. So very cool to see legal tender. Hopefully we get this in Paraguay as well, but it is looking, at least the wheels are in motion. In altcoin news, we're going to start with XRP. Obviously, some of you guys may know that I am a little bit of an XRP bull. I have a lot of XRP in my bags, and I'm very happy with my XRP, but I understand that not everyone likes it. But big news for XRP and the XRP and SEC lawsuit. The judge has actually quashed the SEC's attempts to not have Ripple be able to question a former SEC chair. And this SEC chair specifically had mentioned that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities. Now, if you know anything about the history of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin actually said, buy Ethereum and I will build out the system with those funds. Directly, that's exactly what a security is under the Howey test and under the Howey law. So the SEC should have went after Vitalik Buterin and Ethereum based on its security laws, but it clearly didn't. So they want to go ahead and deposition him and ask him exactly why they made that decision and why Ripple and XRP is excluded from that. You guys have heard me talk about this before, and I do think that the lawsuit is basically frivolous at this point. I don't think the SEC is going to win, and I do think regulatory clarity will be found for XRP, and I think all will be right in the world. Whether you hate it or love it, this is at least good news for cryptocurrency because you can see the SEC get smacked around a little bit. So there should be a run-up with Ethereum after the London hard fork. Now, I've discussed this before, and I do think that this will happen before August 4th, before the actual run-up happen, or before the date, the hash date, when that block is mined. Before that block is mined, I think that run-up is going to happen. Again, I think there's going to be a lot of volatility once that block changes, but it's similar to how the halvening happened. When the halvening happened, nothing really happened for Bitcoin, but weeks prior, Bitcoin had made a huge run up, and that was because of anticipation of that news. So I would expect that this price is going to be baked in by August 4th or around August 4th, whenever the block is mined. So I would make your bets now. I wouldn't be waiting too long to make a bet on Ethereum, especially in this recent dip. Probably a good time to buy Ethereum. And we could expect it to go higher. I don't know exactly how high we will see Ethereum, but it could be pretty dramatic. But we do know that supply will be more scarce with Ethereum as well. And of course, that'll have an impact on the price. Maybe not so much short term, but most likely long term. Last article that I'm going to discuss is 3 months later, Binance shuts down their token trading for stocks. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't know exactly what's happening in the Binance house. I have no idea, because at this point, I'm seeing more people being hired to their regulations department. I'm seeing more countries going after them. The Ontario Securities Commission has made some changes that caused Binance to come out of Ontario, my home province, but I haven't heard anything from many other exchanges, so I don't know exactly what is happening behind closed doors with Binance. I feel like that they probably just bit off a little bit more than they could chew to try to be the number one market player in the space. But this could be the potential for other exchanges to come in and fill in the gap that Binance is now leaving. But, we'll see exactly where this is going to happen. We do know that there are some exchanges that are still trading tokenized stocks, one being FTX. And I do think tokenized stocks are going to be the future. But I still think that there's a little bit ways away for that because they are securities. And you have to make sure that you're doing everything right in terms of securities and regulations and all that fun jazz. So I don't know. I have no idea what's happening in Binance, but hopefully they figure out their crap soon. Going over the market, Bitcoin is currently sitting at 31,661. It is still playing around with that 50-week moving average. We haven't quite dipped below it. We're kind of there. We could still bounce above. So to go back to what I discussed before about the 50-week moving average, and we discussed this in a video, but I'll go over it one more time. Consistently buying under the 50-week moving average has always proven to be a good idea. And on the other token, selling below the 50-week moving average has always turned out to be a bad idea. So we see this when we were below the 50-week moving average. Obviously, we pumped right back up and were able to make huge highs for Bitcoin going up to 12,000. And then we had the coronavirus little announcement here from Donald Trump, and that shot us all the way down to sub 4,000. And then we bounced right back up above the 50-week. Again, we can make a similar test down. I don't know how deep, probably not as dramatic as this because we've already lost a good amount of value. I don't think there's much more to lose, but we could still go down a little bit more. But every single time we've gone below the 50-week moving average in the short term, in the near term, and by near term, I mean a couple months a year, it ended up being a good investment. So when we're here, when we're bouncing at the 50-week moving average, this is the time to buy. I've always said that these dips are the time to buy. Right here is the time to buy. No. The 50-week moving average, buy it. Buy this dip. Buy it and keep buying as we go down below the 50-week, because this could be the last shot to get Bitcoin at these prices for a very, very long time. Now, I'm not saying that the bull market is going to re-engage right when we get out of this, because of course that's not what happened coming out of here. We went into still the bear part of the market, and even here we didn't even cut into the bull market until maybe a couple of months later. You know, March happened, and then we didn't really get bullish until about October. So even though that we could dip below the 50-week moving average, it might take us a while to recover before we actually start getting bullish again. So just have that in mind, but at the same time, these are the times that you absolutely should take advantage of. And additionally, you should not at all be selling during this time. Hold your bags, hodl strong, and that's it. That's it for me. I hope everyone enjoyed these wise words of wisdom. Of course, I am not a financial advisor. I'm just some random guy speaking into a camera. So take everything with a grain of salt. Go ahead and like the video if you did enjoy this video. Subscribe for more crypto news and content. And of course, and as always, happy hodling.